In this lesson, we're going to be looking at creating false eyelashes for your retouch job. Now, just to give you an example of how good it can look, here is an example of a completed job where we've used two different methods to create false eyelashes. We have used both a brush and we've also used the pen tool to create individual lashes. We're going to look at both of these methods because they both have their advantages and their disadvantages. Okay, I'll just turn off that completed set of eyelashes and we'll start with the easy method first. That is to use a pre-made brush. Now, when you look in your Photoshop brush palette, it shows you all of these standard Photoshop brushes, but you can actually add to this palette by going and downloading some brushes from other locations. And one of those locations, I'll just put the logo up on screen, it's called Obsidian Dawn. And Obsidian Dawn has a collection of eyelash brushes which are available for free download. Go ahead and download those and they can make your eyelash enhancement jobs a little bit quicker. They won't do for every single job, but they can save you some time. Now, the method for using the brushes involves us choosing the correct brush, having an empty layer, and then choosing carefully the blending modes, the opacity, and a little bit of blurring to make it all work. So here's how we'll get going and make it all run. First, I'll go into my layers palette and I'm going to add a new layer. So I'll put a new layer up there and I'm going to call this lower lashes. Okay, in and ready. We need to go to our brush palette and I've already installed the Obsidian Dawn eyelash brushes, so I'll just scroll down the list and I'll find my eyelash brushes, and here they are, quite a nice collection, and I'm looking for the lower eyelashes. So this is a left facing or right facing eye, I'm facing it, so I need an eyelash for lowers. It's on the correct side. Yep, that looks pretty good for me. Just confirm, and we'll get it roughly into the correct position, and now you run into your first set of problems. It's going to be very rare that the eyelash brush is going to fit exactly with the eye that you're working with, so you need to twist and turn the thing around a little bit to make it all work. So first of all, I'm just going to increase the size of my brush a little bit. If you're not sure how to do this with your keyboard, you can always use the brush drop down at the top and you can increase the size up there. But I'm just using my keyboard shortcut, which if you're using an English-based keyboard is the bracket keys, or if you're using any other sort of keyboard, you can define them yourself with the keyboard menu. Okay, that's close enough to the correct size. I've got my layer ready. I've got black ink loaded in my palette, so I'll just click one time. Instant eyelashes, not too bad. But now this requires some adjustment, so I'll just switch to my Move tool, just so I can not be distracted by my brush, and this needs to be twisted around, so we need to do a free transform. If you're using a PC, that's Control T. If you're using an Apple Mac, that will be Command T. Now, to twist this around, we need to make a little adjustment. We need to hold down on the PC the Control key. On the Apple Mac, you'll be holding down the Command key, so that we can now skew and twist this particular shape. So I'm just going to wrangle this into position. Try to keep this all pretty much in correct proportions. I'm not trying to distort the thing too much. Can get a little bit flaky if we're not careful, but a little bit of twisting, a little bit of turning. We'll find we'll have this in good shape in a second. I'm trying to mix this in so it fits with the actual eye line here. And I think that's pretty good. That'll do for now. Say enter. And it's not too bad already. To clean this up, all we need to do first of all is change the blending mode. I recommend that the best blending mode for this is to choose a multiply mode. I think this gives you a slightly better result. It's up to you though, whatever floats your boat. Lower the opacity just a little bit, and just so it blends in with the existing eyelashes. After all, we're trying not to look like we've been retouching this with Photoshop. And that's looking pretty good. Fine little touch. Add a little bit of Gaussian blur so it fits in with the blur factor that you've got with the existing image. So I'll go to my filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Just bring over my Gaussian blur box. And I'll just dial it all the way down, and I'm just going to very gently, I'm using the mouse wheel for this, just very gently increase it so that the blur is only enough to match in with the existing lashes. 0.3 in my case, it looks like that's more than enough. And say OK. So there is before and there is after. It's a very convincing result. Now the next thing you want to do is to make a new layer. With your new layer, you're then going to throw in a new brush. So I'll go back to my brush menu, and I'm going to choose an upper eyelash brush. And here's where you may encounter some problems. The upper eyelashes that you get with this Obsidian Dawn collection, they tend to be pretty exotic. They're more your high fashion sort of eyelashes. And there aren't too many that I'd call normal everyday ones. So finding something that's going to look reasonably okay might be a bit tricky. So I'll choose one that's as normal as I can manage. Yeah, that's pretty normal. Okay, and size-wise, maybe knock it down a little bit. Yeah, that's kind of ballpark. And I'll click one time on my new layer, black ink loaded up in the palette. Click one time. Okay, and we need to wrangle it into shape again. That is Control-T or Command-T for the Mac. And we'll just move this around a little bit. Get it into the right position. So we'll put that on that little corner here. Move that one there. And that's not too horrible actually. I just need to wrangle this corner over here into shape. I'm using Control or Command if you're using the Mac, just so that I can distort or skew the shape of this. Just give that a tug there, just to bring it over. Just need to, so I can see that corner there is not in the realms of fiction. And I think just one little tug here. Yep, good enough. Say OK. Again, change the blending mode. Put this over again. You want to put this over to multiply. Again, as I said before, I like multiply. I think it gives a better effect, but if you don't like it, change it to whatever you feel is necessary. Then just dial in the correct amount of opacity so it blends in with the existing lashes. We are trying to enhance here. Yeah, about 90% looks good. And to finish, a little bit of blur. So I'll go Filter Blur, Gaussian Blur. Again, not very much is required here. Very little, maybe even none at all. Yep, you know what? I think I might say no to Gaussian blur. In this case, it's a little bit blurry already. Now, to be honest with you, I'm not terribly satisfied with that. I don't think that's a totally believable effect. Even if I just pull the opacity right down here, yeah, it's sort of okay, but you want better than sort of okay, don't you? The lower lashes, I think they do a great job. I think they're very good for those quick jobs. But for the upper lashes, if it's too extreme, you need to go down the manual path. And that's where we'll look at in part 2. We're going to look at creating our own eyelashes completely from scratch using the pen tool.